As stated in the previous presentation, this topic extends your study of education by interrogating the question, what is the purpose of education? Having read Chapter 1 and engaging with the previous presentation, you now have a sense of what the authors consider to be the double purpose of education. By now, I'm anticipating that questions or concerns have arisen regarding the use of the term good in the definition provided. In this presentation, I will attempt to distill some of the key ideas from the text by locating the term good within considerations of educational aspirations. For example, when we consider what constitutes a good teacher or educator, it may be quite coloured by the context in which the question relates. Will a good teacher in an early years setting have the same educational aspirations as a colleague in a senior secondary school? Should or could they be judged, good or otherwise, against the same criteria or standards? Ideas of good are always historically located. Therefore, considerations of what constitutes a good person and a good society have to be site-specific, located in a particular place at a particular point in time. In this image, we see two very different societies across millennia. Citizens in these societies would have very different ideas about what constitutes good, especially in terms of the role women play in these respective societies. In the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle argues that when it comes to making choices about what to do in a practical situation, we must choose to act in accordance with virtues, and he states that there are two forms of virtues. Moral virtues, which are comprised of courage, moderation, liberality, magnificence, greatness of soul, ambition, gentleness, truthfulness, wittiness and tact, friendliness and justice. And intellectual virtues, which are art, science, prudence or phronesis, wisdom and intellect or nous. For Aristotle, a virtuous life is informed by contemplation, which gives rise to opinions, and these opinions are judged according to whether they are good or bad, noble or not noble, and choice about what to be, acting well and making things well. Regarding what ought to be, he says that we are open to praise or blame depending on what action we choose to take in a particular historical moment, based on our practical reasoning about what to do in this particular uncertain situation. The Greeks call this kind of action praxis, to act nobly and well in the world. Through praxis, we act consciously and deliberately to form both ourselves and the world we share. The pursuit of happiness, according to Aristotle, is not pleasure or consumption. It is achieved only through the living of a living a life of moral and intellectual virtue, and thus a life that is noble not only for the one living it, but also for humankind. How does, or might, this concept of praxis shape or provide a rationale for your own educational aspirations and those of the systems we now work within? How does it align with or inform earlier conversations about the dual purpose of education? Coming up next, we conclude this topic by considering more closely what we mean by the term educational practices, including a brief explanation of the intersubjective spaces we encounter them in.